Okay, welcome back, everyone. As we're continuing in the Tzurba series in Volume 17, we're in Shir 4 of Volume 17, Shir 12 overall in Hilchot Shabbat. We have already gone through Friday, we've gone through Friday night, we've gone through Shabbos morning, we've gone through Suda Shilishi, we went through Mincha, we went through all the Tefillot. We've now coming to the last topic of the assays of the to-dos, mitzvahs to-do on Shabbat, which is the mitzvah of Havdala at the end of Shabbat. Erev Tov. So we're coming to the mitzvahs of Motzei Shabbat. And after these two shiurim on Havdala, Be'ez Hashem, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the malachot, of the malachas of Shabbos, which that is the lota says, the not do's on Shabbat. So let's go into this topic of Havdala. Before we can get into Havdala, we really have to talk about the end of the day, the end of the Jewish day. When does the day end? So you'll tell me when the sun sets, when it's nightfall. The question then is, what is Tzeta Kochavim? What is nightfall? Right? And if you pull out any Zmanim app, right, anything that's worth its salt has 10 different Zmanim for nightfall, right? And you have 10 different Zmanim for a lot of the things. So how do we calculate what is Tzeta Kochavim, what is nightfall? So a couple of things to keep in mind. The way we usually look at things is there's the Shkiat Hama. What's Shkiat Hama? We simply know it's sunset. So when the sun starts to set, that's what we say. Then we have a time in between that's called Ben Hashmashot, which is known as twilight. And the Gemara says it's not day, it's not night. Maybe it's day, maybe it's night. With Safek, L'chumra both ways. Okay? That's why Ben Hashmashot before Shabbat, we already consider it Shabbat. And Ben Hashmashot after Shabbat, right? We still consider it until definitely it's nightfall. We hold strict both ways when it comes to Ben Hashmashot. And after Ben Hashmashot, how much time that is, right? We hit what's called Tzeta Kochavim, which is called the stars come out, which is dusk, it's night. Now, no surprise here. The Gemara gives us, in Masechet Shabbat, in source number 1, the Gemara gives us 3 opinions of how long Ben Hashmashot is. So start off with the beginning. Tell Rabbanan, Ben Hashmashot Safek min hayom min halayla. So Safek is a day, is a night. Safek kula min hayom is a completely day. Safek kula min halayla is a completely night. So Matvino told l'char mishnei yomim. So you give it both. You give it both the night status and you give it both the day status. L'chumra. Now the Gemara asks, "Ve'ezuhu ben hashmashot." What is ben hashmashot? What is this twilight? When does it start? When does it end? What is it? So it gives some fancy verbiage over here. From when the sun sets, as long as the eastern face is reddened. If the lower sky has lost its color and the upper has not lost its color, that's ben hashmashot. Okay. That's the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. We're going to give a time frame for that in a minute. But Rabbi Yehuda is something we're doing with the sun where the upper part of the sky is dark. The lower part of the sky is dark, but the upper part is not. So the upper part is light and the bottom is darker. Okay? That's Rabbi Yehuda. Then you have Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Nechemia gives a time frame. He says, Kadesh Helech Adam Chatzi Mil. What takes to go half a mil. Okay, so mil, we've already seen this in the past. How long does it take to travel a mil? We usually say 18 minutes. It could be 18 to 24 minutes. Okay, but we'll say 18 minutes. If you hold that a mil is 18 minutes, then according to Rabbi Nechemia, then Chatzi Mil is 9 minutes. The Ben Hashmashot, according to Nechemia, is 9 minutes, according to the opinion that 18 minutes is a mil. And then there's another shita, is Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says Ben Hashmashot keherif ayin. There is no time. Twilight's like this. 1 minute it's day, next minute it's already night.
Very fast.
And he says it's not even a couple of minutes. It's keherif ayin. Yes, it's a little longer.
It's longer, it's fast. 1, 2, 3.
Rabbi Yossi says that nichas v'yoytze v'efshar la'amod. You can't stand on it. So you have 3 opinions. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, if you look at the box, look at that box on 156, page 156. The time when the lower part of the sky is dark, but the upper part is not. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Now look right on top of that. And in the second paragraph on top of that, Ditmar, Shir ben Ishpashot Bekama, Amri Yehuda, Amr Shmuel, Shalosha Chilke Mil, 3 portions mil. My Shosha Chilke Mil, Ela, Talata Rivi'e Mila, 3/4 of a mil. So if you take 18 minutes and you divide 18 into 4 and you need 3/4, what's the time? How much time is that? No,
Less than 5 minutes.
no,
And 3. So 15, like around 15, 14 minutes.
13.5 minutes. Okay, if you do 18 times 0.75, which is 3/4, it's going to be 13.5 minutes. That's what you always hear of the 13.5 Shaot Zmaniot minutes, right? That's what it's based on, is that 3/4 of a mil is 13.5 minutes, and that's Benish Mashot between Shki'ah and Tzit. It's Rebbe Yehuda. 13.5, which is 3/4 of 18 minutes. If you hold the mill, is 18 minutes. Okay? Now, and then the Gemara ends up saying, Lini and Shabbat, we hold it Rebbe Yehuda. Okay, fine. So far, we have a Gemara Masechah Shabbat, gives us 3 opinions of how long Benish Mashot is. Is it Rebbe Yehuda 13.5 minutes? Is it Rebbe Nechemia 9 minutes? And is it Rebbe Yossi, hair of iron, there is no time. It's boom, day, twilight, night. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. That's Masechah Shabbat, and continues Masechah Shabbat in source number 2, and tells us there's another way to tell when it is nightfall. There's another way to tell. This is the star method. This is the star method. What's the star method? Koichav echad yom. You see 1 star in the sky, it's definitely daytime. Shenayim, you see 2, that's Benish Mashot. Shlosha, you see Shlosha, then it's Lila. 3, it's night. All right, and Tani Nami we learned again. And Omer Rabbi Yossi, Loi Kochavim Gedolim, Hanerim Bayom. It's not the big stars that you can see during the daytime, but Loi Kochavim Ketanim. And it's not the small stars that you see only at night. Ela Beinunim. Rather, it's middle-sized stars. You see that on the calendar. It says middle-sized stars, right? 3 middle-sized stars. That's Tzeta Kochavim, right? That's when it's nightfall. That's based on this Gemara. Now, it's possible that these times of stars equals the time that Rabbi Yehuda said, that the stars in the day you can see before Shkia. The second star is 13.5 minutes, and the third star would be when Sekel Chavim after 13.5 minutes. So it might fit the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. However, the real issue is this next Gemara in Masechah. And this is where the whole complex Rabbeinu Tam's man comes. Okay? Here it says, how much can an average person walk during a regular day? So it says Eser Prasot, right? It has 10 parsiot, 10 parsangs. Umalot hashachar the netzachama, and from alot hashachar, from dawn till sunrise, person can walk arba milin. He can walk 4 mil. Okay, 4 mil, 72 minutes. A mil is 18 minutes. And then this is the most difficult part of everything over here. The Gemara then says, Mishkiat hahama, from sunset, v'ad tzeta kochavim, and until nightfall, is arba milin. How much is arba milin? If you go with 18 minutes, it's 72 minutes. This is a huge difference than Masechta Shabbos. Masechta Shabbos, you had 3 shitot, right? You had 13.5 minutes, you had 9 minutes, you had Kerev Ayin, which is really short. Always a relatively short. Gemara Masechta says, Shkia till Tzet, 72 minutes. So this is where the whole difficulty starts. When is that? So here, in the Sefer HaYashar, Rabbeinu Tam gives us his explanation of how the Gemara works. He says, you got to pay attention to the Gemara, he says. In Masechet Sachim, it says Shkiat HaHama. Look at the word. It says Shkiat HaHama. V'ad Tzedek Kochavim. If you look back in Masechet Shabbat, it never uses the word Shkiat HaHama. Go back to page 155. And it said, Mishateshka HaChama. Mishateshka HaChama. It uses a different word when the sun sets. Doesn't say Shkiat HaChama, sunset. It says Mishateshka HaChama. So says Rabbeinu Tam. This is the whole Rabbeinu Tam Shita right now. Says Rabbeinu Tam. There's two settings of a sun. And it works like this. There's Shkia. And that's what the Gemara Pesachim is talking about, Shkia. From Shkia, from sunset till nightfall, is 72 minutes. Okay? Okay, so take a look at this timeline. There's Shkia, but after Shkia is still Yom. And it's going to be Yom for 72 minutes minus 13.5. The last 13.5 minutes is Beinash Mashot, and that's what this Gemara is talking about. Misheteshka Hachama, that's the last 13.5 minutes of the 72 minutes. That's Beinash Mashot, and after the 72 minutes, that's when it's set. That's the way Rabbeinu Tam wants to learn. So now, if you do this, you do 72 minutes, do minus 13.5. 72 minus 13 point, keep messing with the wrong button. 72 minus 13.5. 58.5 minutes is Vada Yom. After Shkia is still 100% daytime, according to Rabbeinu Tam. 58.5 minutes. Now we're dealing with, we're not dealing with Shod Zmaniot at this moment. We're looking at a perfect day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Exactly 58.5 minutes is Vada Yom, according to Rabbeinu Tam. It then becomes Beinash Mashot for 13.5 minutes, and then it's Tet HaKochavim. That's Rabbeinu Tam. Now, what's most interesting is that the Shulchan Aruch goes with Rabbeinu Tam. The Shulchan Aruch says the halacha is like Rabbeinu Tam. Look in this next source. Rabotai, source number 5. Source number 5 over here. Says the Shulchan Aruch. Yesh omrim shetzarich lohosif mechol ad hakodesh. We're all told you have to add on before Shabbat. Before Shabbat, you have to add from the weekday to the Kodesh, right? Says Rabbeinu Tam, when is this time that you're supposed to add? Bizman tosefet zeh hu mitchilat hashkiah. It's only when Shkia starts. It's only when Shkia starts, that's when you add on. She'en hashemesh nir'et ala aretz azman benesh mashot v'azman hazeh shehu gimel milin v'rivi'ah. It's 58.5 minutes. Here he says, Shulchan Aruch says, Shkia comes for the next 58.5 minutes. It's not Shabbos yet.
Yeah, but you could have a mincha.
Yes. According to Shulchan Aruch, yes. Yes. It's Vada Yom. Oh, you could. He says that's when you can make Tosefet Shabbat. That is Tosefet Shabbat.
Before the 13.5.
Yeah. In those 58.5h minutes.
And the lagging time, where is that in the...
We did that last time. That's the Sefer Re'im. That's going the other way. But according to the Shulchan Aruch, he says like Rabbeinu Tam, he says it's Vada Yom, 58.5 minutes after Shkia. And therefore, that's the time of Tosefet Shabbat. Now, the Ramah says, oh, by the way, you could take in Shabbat from Plag HaMincha. That's actually early. Right? And that's what we hold. But the Shulchan Aruch is very clear that it's 100% daytime for 58.5 minutes after Shkia. Not like the way we practice, right? We practice 13.5 minutes. So what do we do?
טוב, ובלבד שיוסיף איזה זמן שיהיה ודאי יום.
Yeah, and the Vada Yom is 58.5 minutes.
ודאי יום, if you see dark all over, this is ודאי יום.
Good. So come to the Gra. That's what the Gra says. And the Gra says, V'hachosh mechish. V'hachosh mechachish. He says the reality disproves everything Rabbeinu Tam says.
Exactly. He can say whatever.
Rabbeinu Tam says it's daytime for 58.5 minutes after sunset. Go outside. Look, it's night. It's completely surrounded by night. The Vilna Gaon says Rabbeinu Tam is wrong. It's not just the Vilna Gaon. The Geonim themselves was just before Rabbeinu Tam. Say that's not the way. That's not the way to learn.
I have a stronger kasha.
More than reality itself?
No, it's maybe to low sip. How you make the difference between mincha and mariv if both choshen? If both are choshen, how you know which one is mincha, which one is mariv?
It says 58.5 minutes is by that. Yo, okay,
I'm
okay.
asking you go now outside.
So let's.
And it's 100% choshen. You could have done a mincha.
So, one second. So you have to understand now. But okay. So the Vilna Gaon says Rabbeinu Tam's wrong because the reality is different. The reality is tight. So how does the Vilna Gaon learn the Gemara? Because remember, the Gemara said from Shkia to Tzeit Kochavim is 72 minutes, right? So Rabbeinu Tam came with the Chiddush. There's Shkia, and then there's Tesha, right? It was when it comes dark. He has there's 58.5 minutes. Then there's when the sun really sets. Then it's finished Mashot. Then it's Tzeit. So comes the Vilna Gaon in source 6 and says no. There's a different timeline. There's a different timeline. There's Shkia. That is sunset. There's Banish Mashot. That's 13.5 minutes. Then there's Tzeit. And the Gemara Psachim that said from Shkia to Tzeit is 72 minutes, that's not regular Tzeit that's talking about. That's talking about Tzeit Kol HaKochavim, all of the stars. That's when it's really dark and all the stars can be seen. And you need it for different halachot, but not to do with when it becomes night. Okay, so that is the way the Vilna Gaon and the Gaonim would have learned the sugya. That when the Gemara Psachim says Mishkia Atzet Kochavim is 72 minutes, it's Atzet Kol HaKochavim and not Tzet Kochavim. Okay, so here we now have Rabbeinu Tam. We have the Gaonim Shita. Shulchan Aruch seems to be going with Rabbeinu Tam. Lamaisa, what do? We Lamaisa, when it comes to Erev Shabbat, even Hasidim today, it's apparently a mol Hasidim who go with Rabbeinu Tam Shita. In the past, they used to Shabbat for them came in 58.5 minutes after Shkia. And when they were in America, the Rabbanim at the time, the literature Rabbanim at the time who were here, implored, this is what I read in the history books, they implored to the Hasidic, the Rabbanim to make Shabbat the same time for all of Klal Yisrael, the earlier Zman, right? The Gaonim Zman, and not like you have all this time after Shkia. And so today, I think in almost all the communities, everyone holds the Zman that we have, and no one goes and says it's still daytime, it's Vadayom, right? And no one holds their Rabbeinu Tam for Erev Shabbat. Now, what about on the flip side? What about Motzei Shabbat? So here we're going to take a look.
But one problem is, I think, the statement what they brought in number 3. They said, Mishkiat HaChamad V'Atzet HaKochavim, 4 milim.
Right, that's the Gemara Psachim.
Yes, but if you measure it, if you measure it today in Eretz Israel,
it's like 30 minutes.
See, when it goes down, exactly.
So the Vilna Gaon says, that's what Vilna Gaon says, don't read it Tzet Kochavim, read it Tzet Kol HaKochavim. You have to add in the word Kol. Okay. Okay. Now, so we said Erev Shabbat, no one goes as Rabbeinu Tam. We're not, because remember, we're going to be more machmer. We're not going to use it as a leniency and say Shabbat comes in later. What about Motzei Shabbat? Comes to Motzei Shabbat, the Bir Halacha, right, says that what should we be doing? We should lechatchila hold of Rabbeinu Tam for Motzei Shabbat. Says the Pri Yitzchak. Who is the Pri Yitzchak? Rav Yitzchak Blazer. Yitzchak, he was one of the primary students of Rabbi Charles Salanter. You can read his history later; it's very amazing here. Rabbi Etzel Petterberger, he was the chief rabbi in St. Petersburg for a while in Russia. Very interesting stories about him. And he writes, and I wanted you to read his lashon. It says, "Yerushalayim Kaddish." It says, "Yerushalayim Kaddish, haminik pashet al pi gedolim lenoi keshita zu af lahakav motzei Shabbos." He says the shita is not like Rabbeinu Tam, even in Yerushalayim, is to always go like the Gaonim and take out Shabbat earlier. V'lo yimatzeh gam from those who are machmer, rak echad mi'elef. Only 1 in 1,000 are machmer to Shabbat kedai Rabbeinu Tam. He says only 1 in 1,000 hold like Rabbeinu Tam for Motzei Shabbat. In Yerushalayim, Yer Kodesh, even amongst the Gedolim. This is the Pri Yitzchak, Yitzchak Blazer says. Now, Chaim Ovadia, who is more of a Shulchan Aruch guy, right? Is he likes to follow Shulchan Aruch to the T,
Yeah.
right? So he says, "Askana didina shari lechol chered ledaver Hashem lahachmer." She just ran a tam. The roy b'poiskim shelo asal kom lachem to Shabbat ad she'avor shiur dal milin. Dainu sha'av v'chomesh. He says a person should wait 72 minutes
but this was
when
Shabbat.
it comes. Motzei Shabbat.
What about
And every Shabbat, everyone holds.
Yeah,
no one holds Rabbeinu Tam for.
I understand, but why you hold Motzei Shabbat?
Okay,
yes,
so
and Erev
so
Shabbat
very
no?
good. So very good.
If you want
Very
to
good.
take history time,
Very
then
good.
you
So Lamaisa Chamavad does not hold Rabbeinu Tam.
Okay.
He does not hold of it as a shita. In fact, there is a case about if you take a look at note number 8. Look at note number 8 on the bottom. It's important to point out that Ravadi agrees that this is not strict obligation. Ravadi does not say that it's Rabbeinu Tam. Elsewhere, he rules that if a baby is born 20 minutes after sunset on Friday, the brit should be on the following Shabbat, and you do the brit on Shabbat. But if it's 20 minutes after Shkia, it's according to Rabbeinu Tam Vadayom. And how are you doing it on Shabbat then? Right? So Maisa means Chavadia does not hold of Rabbeinu Tam. So this is going back to many places where Chavadia does not hold of the Shulchan Aruch. For example, wearing tefillin on the morning of Tisha B'Av. Shulchan Aruch clearly writes you wear it by mincha, right? And we don't. And the reason for this is when there is a minhag that precedes, the Shulchan Aruch, the Chamavadia would go with the minhag, not the Shulchan Aruch, right? There's a minhag that precedes the Shulchan Aruch, and most Sephardim did, wherever it was, they would not necessarily have to follow Shulchan Aruch afterwards. So apparently in Yerushalayim, as Ritzlik Blazer shows, like throughout all of history, we held Motzei Shabbat like the Geonim Shita. Therefore, the Shita of Tzet is Geonim. However, in deference, in respect to the Rabbeinu Tam and the Shulchan Aruch, we say it's better to if you can, hold Motzei Shabbat till 72 minutes after Shkia. Okay, so that's the Bia Omer. Now, to make matters more, so we've dealt with the complicated topic, but we made it simplified because the truth is it's more complicated than this. Because now, when the Gemara is talking about it's 18 minutes and this and this and that, it's talking about the time when they are living in the Middle East, right?
Very different.
Where Babylon and Israel and these places, Jordan, all these places, are similar time with the sun going up and going down and how long it takes in between. And when you live in different parts of the world, the reality, like Rabbi Chaim says, in Eretz Yisrael, it moves faster. The sun sets faster.
Because always it puts the cover mushbet.
Right, the equinox, the equator, and all these different things. So here he writes the latitude of where you are compared to the sea level, and the elevation level, and the time of year, because at different times of the year, the sun and the earth degrees is a little different. They also play factors into when nightfall is. Okay? And they play factors into when nightfall is. Therefore, the Talmid Ben Yonah writes, since it's difficult to measure, we should go with the other Gemara in Masechet Shabbat that says go with the stars. Because if you can start calculating time, depends where you are, it's going to be different. So go with the stars, you'll see the stars, and you'll know that it's Motzei Shabbat. And the Ran says, be careful with the stars. We're not talking about 3 stars, one here, one there, one there. They have to all be together. Right? It should be machmer. And he says the reason to do that because maybe it's really Motzei Shabbat earlier, but Tosefet Shabbat, so wait for 3 stars that are together. That's in source number 11. And Shulchan Aruch writes, you should wait to do malacha so you'll see 3 small stars, not even Beinunim. Small stars, so it even gets more darker. They shouldn't be mufsar. They should be together. And if you're not sure, you should wait. So you shouldn't have a suffix. And the Mishnah Berurah says because we want to have Tosefet Shabbat anyway, so we're not sure exactly when Seit is, keep it a little bit longer. Now that we came to this point, now we have to talk. Lamaisa, what do we do? So first of all, I want to read to you from the laws of Shabbat over here. Rabbi Nachshon, he writes as follows. Good summary over here. He says, Shabbat does not end. Malacha will not be before Motzei Shabbat until it's Sitek Chavim. And there's a disagreement. When so the Chachamim is the Gaonim, it's 13 and a half minutes after sunset. According to Rabbeinu Tam, it's 72 minutes after sunset. The general opinion follows the opinion of the Gaonim, but it's better to be strict until the Rabbeinu Tam. Now, that's very strange, because if you really go with the Gaonim, it's 13.5 minutes after Shkia. And no one ever takes out Shabbat 13.5 minutes exactly, right? We always keep a little more, okay? Now, in Eretz Yisrael, before we move on, I'll tell you what Chamavadia said in Eretz Yisrael and what he was reported to have said for outside of Eretz Yisrael of how long we're supposed to wait. But let's take a look on in Yalka Joseph English edition for a moment, just outside of the Tzurba, just to sum up what we learned over here. First, he writes something very interesting. Where's Halacha 11? So even though we saw the Ram, the Rif, and Shulchan Aruch says, look at stars, he writes over here, Ein lismoch al riyat gimel kochavim. He says, Yalka Yosef says, don't look at stars. You're not knowing what the Shabbat is by the stars. Okay? Don't look at stars. How do you do it? Yesh l'nog al pi ha'sha'on kiniskar. You should the kiniskar b'sif that was said earlier. He says you have to look at the luach. Look at the time that's printed on the calendar. Yeah, right. Okay, now he writes us here as follows. It says, Zman tzedek chavim for Shabbat is about 20 minutes after sunset. In order to add time to Shabbat day. So he's made it really 13.5, but make it 20, so it's you're doing Tosefet Shabbat. Okay? But he says many people wait half an hour. And he says that, and that's, by the way, what Chamavadia seemed to told people to do in Eretz Yisrael, is to wait a half hour after Shkia. Half hour after Shkia in Eretz Yisrael, it's already Motzei Shabbat, and that's it. Half hour. Now, he writes over here, I love this Lashon. He says, the various times that are printed in calendars at the end of Shabbat are only suggestions. Okay? It's only suggestions. Whatever you see in these calendars, especially the Ashkenazi calendars, they're like later and later and later times. It's all suggestions, he writes. They're not based on any halachic principles. Those times are not set. Neither according to the opinion of the Gaonim, because the Gaonim is 13.5 minutes and then it's Motzei Shabbat. Right? And according to Rabbeinu Tam, it is 72 minutes. So what's printed on the calendar is only a mere suggestion. Okay? And as such, Chamavaji held that in Eretz Yisrael it's 30 minutes. And Rav Elbaz is reported to have been saying that outside of Eretz Yisrael, Sfaradim can always rest assured that 40 minutes after Shkia is Motzei Shabbat already. 40 minutes after. So we're knowing in the show about 42 minutes. You pay attention, it's about 42 minutes. Many Ashkenazim also go with the 42 minutes. But for Shabbat, we're knowing 40 minutes. And that's why people ask me, how come on Yom Tov, second day, I make tefillah earlier, and on Motzei Yom Tov, I make it later. The difference is on Motzei Yom Tov, you're not going to do malacha right after. On first day to the second day, you're just going into the next day. So we can hold that it's already the next day at 13.5 minutes. But when it comes to doing malacha, I push it off to the 40 minutes to make sure that it's really Motzei Yom Tov. People don't get this, and they say, Rabbi, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And then they ask questions. And I don't know what I'm doing. But okay, it's fine to ask questions. But this is the whole point over here. Whatever is printed on your calendar is a suggestion. The real way it is it 13.5 minutes or is 72 minutes? The minhag is 30 minutes in Eretz Yisrael. Since we're in America, and the altitude, the latitude, the elevation, the degrees of the sun and all that plays a difference. Therefore, Chamavadia held you should wait 40 minutes in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, and that also plays a difference where in Chutz La'aretz you are. Right? Just to take a look. Look at page 164.
Well, in Europe,
says
it's a lot longer.
It can be longer. But look, he brings Norway. And I don't know where Norway is on the map.
It's in Europe.
But
it's close to the water.
Right. So he writes over here, look at the time. He says it's 2:54 is sunset in Norway. But it actually doesn't become nightfall to 5:25. Okay? Because the sun sets takes a lot longer to set. Right. So you remember the talkings in the Gemara is based on where they're living, right? So we have to adjust it to where we're living, and therefore the minhag in Chutz La'aretz in America, in New York, is to wait 40 minutes. And in fact, if you look on the page before, on page 163, the Kaf HaChaim even suggested Then in Eretz Yisrael, they should wait 40 minutes. Rav Moshe, and there's many Ashkenazim go with this. Rav Moshe Feinstein held that in New York, and he did it based on they reported that he did it based on his own observations of the sun and the sun setting. He said it's never later than 50 minutes. So 50. So Rav Moshe held it was 50 minutes. After Shkia, in New York, it's definitely Motzei Shabbat. Okay, so usually, anyway, you're davening from 40 to at least 55 minutes afterwards if you start at 40. Right. So usually, even Rav Moshe, you would be holding this before you start doing Malach. Okay, so that's now we've come to a deeper understanding of Tzeta Kochavim. Because we always talk Rabbeinu Tam, this, that. Now we have how it actually played out.
But my question from
one more piece that comes into this. Remember, it's all Shaot Zmaniyot. Remember? It's all seasonal minutes. And how do you calculate seasonal minutes is another question. Right? Magen Avraham and the Vilna Gaon. Right? Is it dawn to dusk or is it sunrise to sunset? So that would also play a factor in to what the minutes, 13.5 actually is, or what 72 actual minutes are.
I think my question before was very valid question to say, according to Rabbeinu Tam, if he says it's 72 minutes, 70 minutes to the night, so you're davening mincha and arvit the same time, the same darkness. So should be mincha at the daytime and arvit.
But he holds it's vaday yom till 58.5 minutes after shkia.
Go outside and see.
You're right. That's what the Gaon said. He said, go look at the reality. It's not that way. כן.
אבל אני אומר,
דברים חסידיים.
כי הם הולכים לפי...
אתה לא מסתדר.
לא.
אתה לא בסדר.
אבל...
אוקיי.
אני מחשיב את הגרעה יותר מה שתקף לזה. סורי.
We have to move on. This is just the first section, and we took a half hour to get through the section, but a very important section. All right, let's move on to the next section, which is the mitzvah of Havdala. The Rambam, both in his Sefer Mitzvahs and the Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos, he writes that the same way you have Kiddush on Shabbos night, you have the parallel on Motzei Shabbat, which means that the Rambam holds Havdala is deoraita. Okay, just like Kiddush is deoraita, not necessarily in wine, but Kiddush is deoraita. So too, Havdala Motzei Shabbat is deoraita. That's the way they learn the Rambam. However, the Orchot Chaim, he writes from the Rash, then he says, women don't do Havdala for themselves because it's a rabbinic mitzvah and it's just an asmachta from the pasuk. There is no biblical obligation to make Havdala. Okay, the Maggid Mishnah also writes that appears from the Rambam that it is Doraita, but he writes V'yesh Amrim Shavdala Eina El Medivrei Sofrim. So there is a machloket that exists if Havdala is Doraita or not. Now, why would a woman should not do Havdala if it is Derabanan? Because it will become a mitzvah Shazman Grama, and she's not included on Shabbat. She's included because she has to keep Shabbat. She should make sure she doesn't break it. So she doesn't break it. The Lotas says so she'll be responsible for the Ases. But here it's just a regular mitzvah. That's just man grama. And therefore a woman would not be obligated to do it. And therefore maybe she shouldn't say the brachos. So that's the next section really over here is, are women obligated to recite Havdalah? So the Maggid Mishnah, he writes, Havdalah, if it's Doraita, then the woman, it's parallel to Kiddush. And then the woman should also have the exact same chiyuv. But then he says, even if it's rabbinic, even if it's the Rabbanan did it, they were metaking it like a Doraita. I mean, they were metaking it like Kiddush. And if it's like Kiddush, then the woman should also be able to do it. Don't say like the Rash that says women should be able to do it. They should be able to do it. Shulchan Aruch writes, Nashim hayivot b'Havdalah, kishem shehayivot b'Kiddush. Women are exactly chayuv in Havdalah like Kiddush. Yesh mishachov. There are those who argue. So he brings that yesh. And therefore, the Rama writes, Al Kain lo yavdil la'atzman. The ladies should not make Havdalah from themselves. Rak yishmu Havdalah min ha'anosh. They should hear it from the men. Okay? Don't make Havdalah on their own. Perhaps that's where the folk legend came that if a woman drinks the wine of Havdalah, she becomes hairy. I'm sure everybody has heard this in their lifetime. Right? They grow a beard. You ever heard this one? You ever heard this one? This is like a folk legend amongst old Jews of all stripes. Like everyone has heard this one. By the way, there's no source for it. Absolutely not. It's just the legend. The issue with it really is the Shla brings is that that perhaps the Eitz Hadas was wine, was grapes, and Mos Shabbat happened because the lady gave it, and then they were kicked out of Gan Eden, and all those stuff happened because of her chait, and therefore it reminds her of the chait, so the woman shouldn't do Havdalah. Because of that source. That's the only source that said the woman shouldn't really do Havdalah Kabbalistically. Otherwise, the whole hair business from the beard is a folk legend. That's exactly what it is. But the Bach says, hold on a second. Bach says, 1 second. For us Ashkenazim, what's the problem for women making Havdalah? You're telling me it's the mitzvah shizman grama. But Ashkenazim hold all the time you make a mitzvah grama, women can make a bracha on it. Get the shofar, lulav, always. It's the Asfaradim that say women can't make a bracha on mitzvahs man grama. Ashkenazim always make. So why are the Ramah saying they shouldn't make their own Havdalah? So the Magen Avraham wants to explain, and he explains the Bach that maybe the Bach makes a difference. Maybe Ashkenazim hold a woman can make a bracha on a mitzvah man grama only if it's a mitzvah that has an action. But if the mitzvah is a mitzvah of dibur, just talking, then maybe they can't make a bracha, and that's maybe why they can't make kiddush levana, because it's not really actionable. It's just mere words, dvarim. So maybe they shouldn't make that. However, so the Bach says they could make. Magen Avraham wants to say they can't because of this reasoning, but he writes in the end that he writes that the Bach's words are right, that the woman should be able to make Havdalah. And the Mishnah Brura then asks, for 1 second, there's a minhag that women don't drink the wine of Havdalah. So how could they ever make Havdalah if they don't have a minhag not to drink it? Aruch HaShulchan, source 25 says, what are you talking about? Just because they have a minhag not to drink it means they would not do the mitzvah of Havdalah if they have to. Obviously, they don't drink it, but if they have to make Havdalah, they would drink it. So then the Biur Halacha, right? The Mishnah Berurah, Chafetz Chaim, gets into another subject. He says, what about, okay, let's say for a moment Havdalah is chiyuv on the woman, for whatever reason. It's doraita, it's mitakin like the doraita. What about the candle? What about the candle? The candle's not really part of Havdalah, right?
It's not part of the.
No, it's not.
So why we have the candle?
You can you make the bracha of Bari Mor Ha'esh outside of Havdalah?
Yes.
So then it's not part of Havdalah.
So why?
We put it in there, and that's the way you should do it. But on Motzi Shabbat, that's Tisha B'Av, Motzi Shabbat Tisha B'Av. We make a bracha Bari Mor Ha'esh in the shul, right? Yeah. Also before Purim, right? On Purim, if it's Motzi Shabbat before Havdalah, you can make a Bari Mor Ha'esh, right? And then you read the Megillah. Right, so there's times we take Havdalah. If you don't have a fire during Havdalah, you find the fire it's still later on Shabbat. You make it then, so it's not part of it. So he says, maybe the candles, the Mishras Man Grama, and maybe they shouldn't do Havdalah on a candle. Right, they can make Havdalah maybe, but they shouldn't make it on a candle. So maybe we can't do the mitzvah of Havdalah on a candle.
Why not to make it? Because mitzvah shazman grama.
Yeah, Mishras Man Grama. That's only words, perhaps. I don't know. So they have these fakus. What? Of course, if you don't have a candle, all of a sudden you make Havdalah. You make Havdalah. Borei Pri HaGefen, that's Havdalah. Borei Pri HaGefen, that's Havdalah. The fire and the Psamim, that's additions that we add to it usually.
It's also on the candle of the light.
Not a Motzei Shabbat. The Shabbat has to be an actual fire.
What?
Yeah, because the whole idea is that he created fire Motzei Shabbat, right? That's the idea. Okay, so Shmirat Shabbat Keilchata, Newarth, he writes, Isha she'en la mi she'yotzea yedei chovot Havdalah. A woman doesn't have who can make for Havdalah. Tavdil atzma v'tishte min hayayin k'dei lo levatel mitzvot Havdalah, aval lo tivarech al haner. Shmirat Shabbat Keilchata says for Ashkenazic women, if they have to make Havdalah from themselves, they could make Havdalah, they could drink the wine, but they shouldn't make Borei Mor Ha'esh. Because it's a separate mitzvah, man grama, that may not be associated with Havdalah. It may even be a hefsek in between the Havdalah. A Borei Pri HaGefen and a mamish goes all.
Right
So
now,
they can't do it.
Right now, it's no mitzvah shazman grama. She has time.
לא, זה יום כל שבוע, אבל לא מגיע כל יום.
It comes only once in Shabbat. and only Saturday night. And once it's the morning, you can't do it anymore. So now that's those Ashkenazic poskim who seem to go with that women cannot make Havdalah. However, the Igrot Moshe, this is Moshe Feinstein, and he writes, in my humble opinion, women should recite the bracha over Havdalah candle. And just like the Shulchan Aruch said originally, the women are completely chayiv in Havdalah, just like men, in the first opinion. And he goes through, even if it's not, they should still say it on the candle. The Anshe Knesset Gedolah put the candle in the Havdalah as the proper way of making it, so it's part of Havdalah, right? Don't say it's a separate thing. Rav Moshe says women make Havdalah normal, okay? With the fire, with everything. They have to make Havdalah, make with everything. That's what Moshe says. Now, what about us Sephardim? What do we hold for our women? So there are cases of girls who, let's say, they're living away, or they don't have a father, they don't have a brother, whatever it is. Their brother's away, their father's not home, and they come and there's the only woman at home. So are they to make Havdalah or not? So we hold that women are obligated in Havdalah just as men are, completely. We hold that the Shulchan Aruch's first day, the women are obligated in Havdalah just like men. Okay? Even if she's unable to hear Havdalah from a man, she's obligated to say Havdalah for herself and to drink the wine. And in addition, here he writes as well, just to make it very clear for us, women are obligated to men the bracha of the fire of Motzei Shabbat. The Havdalah candle is part of the Havdalah. Don't differentiate like the Mishnah Berurah and others. Don't differentiate. It's all one set, and the women are obligated in all of it. For Sephardim. Okay, so for us Sephardim, everything is included. Now, what happens? What? No such problem with the beard. Here he writes. I'm going to read you the bottom over here. He writes in page 281 and note 15 on the bottom. Although there is a common folk tale that women who drinks from Havdalah wine will become hairy, the Maaseh Ish, if Maaseh states that in the name of Hazon Ish, this is simply incorrect. All right, if you have from the Hazon Ish that says it's completely nonsense. It doesn't exist. Right? No, even if there's no source. People go through this, there's no source for it about this hairy. Someone wanted to. Probably someone's daughter probably asked them. They wanted a trick to. So he scared them by saying it's going to get hairy. So she went to school and told the whole class, and it spread like wildfire until today. People still believe that. No such thing. Okay, no such thing. Okay, but that's that. Okay, now on Shemirat Shabbat Chata gets into another case. So we here don't practice this way, Motzei Shabbat, but in many old school shuls, they make Havdalah in the shul. Okay?
Just to make for the people.
Right.
Everybody was poor, so they used to make Havdalah for the people. They go home, they don't have to make Havdalah.
What happens if the man made Havdalah in shul, or he participated in the Havdalah, B'samim, Ma'esh, and said Amen, and now he comes home.
And his wife wants Havdalah.
And his wife needs to have Havdalah. He should say Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo in the synagogue. He should not smell the b'samim. He should not do the ish. This way he comes home and makes it perfectly. The problem is his chiyuv and her chiyuv are different now. All right? According to us especially, her chiyuv is the oraita. He already did it. He doesn't have a chiyuv anymore to do it.
Right.
Can he still do it for her? Now the other problem would be is the b'samim and the ner you can only do once. Even if you want to say you can do Havdalah for someone else, you can't do ner and b'samim again. It's already done.
Why not to say?
Why
not to say it's the same thing like Kiddush Shabbat?
It is.
Okay.
You can make the bar priyagaf and bar mera'ish, but you can't make the b'samim and the ner for them because you already did it, and it's going to be a hefsek now in this Havdalah for you. So I'm going to read you over here what he says. This is what he writes over here. And the Yalkut Yosef, also writes it, but I'm reading the Yalkut Yosef. He writes, since the cantor recites Havdalah in the synagogue, it's best that his wife recite Havdalah for herself. He already did it. The wife should make her own Havdalah. If she can't do it, then he says Havdalah again. The same applies to anyone who mistakenly fulfills the obligation of Havdalah in the shul, and he still needed to say it at home. He should recite the blessing over the wine and the blessing of Havdalah, and after tasting the wine, he should tell his family to say the bracha, b'samim, and the ner, because he can't make it in his Havdalah because that's not part of Havdalah anymore. Because he already did those. The ner and b'samim are not really part of Havdalah, which is established in the nusach of Havdalah, but it's not. So therefore, if he's doing Havdalah again, he can't interrupt with Mir and Bisamim in the middle. He has to tell them to do it afterwards. If they recite the blessing before he has a chance to taste the wine, he must be careful not to respond Amen. For that would be interruption between his blessing of the wine and drinking the wine.
I don't understand it. You know why? Because he did not make the Havdalah in the shul.
But he answered
He
Amen.
was only listening. Okay, was only listening. And the same thing in the Havdalah in the Shmona Esrei. He made Havdalah in
So
Shmona
here he writes.
He made Havdalah in Shmona Esrei. So what's the difference?
Here he writes. So he answers before. And it's best that he's demonstrating his intention by responding Baruch Hu u'Baruch Shemo. You're making Havdalah in the shul. He should ask Baruch Hu u'Baruch Shemo to show that he's not being Yotzeh through this Havdalah. He should not. They always say it, right? He should not smell the bisamim. He should not make the ner. And then he has shown that he did not participate in this Havdalah. Otherwise, he runs into issues. Okay? So it's important to know this, especially in the shuls that still make Havdalah in the shul, that if you're going to do that, you can't make Havdalah at home so simply for the family. You would have to use this thing. What? They make Havdalah. So whoever makes Havdalah has to know that they can't fulfill their people at home's Havdalah, or they can do it, but they have to make Ner and Samim afterwards. The Orlet Zion says, even if the husband already recited Havdalah, he may recite it again and fulfill obligation for the entire Havdalah order, meaning include Bisamim and Ner, but it's best if she recited the bracha on the candle herself. So he can stop at the Bari Priya Gafen, let her make her own Bisamim, her own Aish, and then finish up, and don't answer, obviously don't answer, and then finish up the Havdalah, and he can do it that way.
Yeah.
Again, better not to get into these deviant practices. Rather, don't do Havdalah in the shul, or people who do Havdalah in the shul should be the people who really don't have family at home, or they're not going to go home, and they have someone else doing it at home for their family.
You hear Havdalah in shul, don't go home.
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo. Okay. Now, activities forbidden before Havdalah. Activities forbidden before Havdalah. Eating and drinking. Okay, so the Gemara goes through a whole issue over here that if it turns Shabbat, you have to stop eating, make a kiddush. If it turns Motzei Shabbat, you have to stop eating, and you have to make Havdalah. Now, there's another topic over here about water. It seems to be that water before Kiddush, the Shulchan Aruch said you can't drink water before Kiddush. But the Gemara says here, but Havdalah, it says that water is okay. But then there was an opinion of Rav Huna. He saw someone drinking water before Havdalah. He said, well, you're not afraid of Askara, this disease that causes a person to choke and die. And he was very careful not to even to drink water, but Rav Ashi said water was fine. So coming to the Shulchan Aruch, and we'll start with there, source 32. Asur le'echol shum davar, or afilu lishtot yain, or shar mashkin chutz mimayim. Right? You're not allowed to drink wine or any other drink except for water. Mishatech shach, till it gets dark, ad sheyivdil. So from when it gets dark, until you make Havdalah. And it got dark, you don't have to stop. So if you started eating your Sudah Shishi, and then it became already Tzedek Chavim, and you're still eating Sudah Shishi, you don't have to stop. You can continue to eat. Okay. Now we're going to deal with another issue, and this is really the issue of how late can you start your Su'udah Shelishi? Okay? How late? Early already dealt with. Yeah. Right? You already do Su'udah Shelishi. The question is, how late can you start? Meaning, I would assume Shkiyahu is the cutoff point. But do we want to hold maybe Ben Mashot? It's not day, it's not night. Safek Yom, Safek Laila.
Right.
So perhaps you can start it then. So the Taz says yes. The Taz says if you didn't start Sudah Shishi, you can start it during Ben Mashot. During those 13.5 minutes. You can start.
After the Shkia.
After Shkia. During those 13.5 minutes. Mishnah B'Ram says if he didn't eat Sudah Shishi yet, then obviously, since it's a mitzvah, you could watch during Ben Mashot. However, we bring Rav Victor Nevenzal, who writes B'Shem Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who says that Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said in Eretz Yisrael, once it's Shkia, you cannot wash anymore. And the reason is, he says, because it turns night very fast. It's so fast that the time you wash and sit, it's already night. So you can't do it. Right? Outside Eretz Yisrael, you could. In Eretz Yisrael, you can't. But Chamavadia disagrees. He doesn't say, on page 176, he doesn't say it's dependent on where you are, right? He holds the 13.5 minutes or 13.5 minutes. Mutter le'echol suda shlishit at kareva shah achar shkia, until about a quarter hour after shkia, which is about 13.5 minutes. Okay, so Chamavadia says even there to show you can do that. Now, it said you have to stop eating, but if you're middle of the Suda, you don't have to stop eating. So the Aruch HaShulchan says, you know what that means? That means if you're eating bread, you washed and you ate bread, that's when you don't have to stop once it becomes tzet, once it becomes nightfall. But if you're not eating bread, you're eating fruits, you're eating other things, right? Then you have to stop. You have to stop. You can't eat those things. Once it becomes nightfall, you have to stop. The Or L'Tzion wants to suggest that maybe mizonot you can also continue eating, because mizonot sometimes you could make a seudah mizonot. If you eat enough mizonot, you can make a motzi, right? So since he says since it could be that sometimes mizonot is a seudah, so therefore you're eating mizonot and it's not a seudah, you can still eat even once it becomes dark. Let's take a look now. We stop over here for a second. Let's take a look now in the Yalkut Yosef, outside in the English edition. On page 361, and here he writes, after sunset on Saturday evening, so it's Shkia Shabbat, on Shabbat day, Shkia, it's forbidden to eat anything or to drink any beverage other than water until one has fulfilled the mitzvah of Havdala. So it starts from Shkia. Shkia, you cannot eat or drink anymore except for water. If someone had started eating the third meal before dusk, before it's said, so if you start your meal between Ben Ish Mashot, that's fine. You can continue eating even after it sets. Once you said B'kat Hamazon, you can no longer eat. If someone had eaten the third meal earlier in the day, and at sunset he was in the middle of eating fruit or cake, he must stop eating. So Chamavadia does not hold like the Or L'Tzion that says you're eating mizanot, you can continue. You have to stop. Okay? So you have to stop eating. So your only time that you can continue to eat after Shkia and after Tzet is if you're in the middle of a meal. You started your meal, you washed, you ate the meal. Fruit, snacks, and other things, you have to stop. Okay? Now, the laws of Shabbat, here Rabbi Nachson, his Sefer Chayei Olamim, makes a similar observation, slightly different. We'll take a look at this. He writes about a case, a person did not eat Sudah Shishi during the day yet. He didn't eat yet, Sudah Shishi. But he's not washing either. And it's after Shkia. It's during Ben Ish Mashot. Can he eat fruit or cake during that time? Right? He has to make the mitzvah of Sudah Shishi. Sudah Shishi technically can be done with fruits and cakes. We were saying up until now you have to wash in order to eat late. So he writes over here, even one who's too full to wash for bread may eat mezonot or fruit during Ben Ish Mashot. And once it becomes tzet, he has to stop. But he can go during Ben Ish Mashot. So that's a further leniency, right? A further leniency that you're able to eat fruit and cake up until tzet. If you didn't eat Sudah Shishi yet, if you ate Sudah Shishi, because it's a mitzvah, we seem to allow you to do this. Because the mitzvah Sudah Shishi, we allow you to do this leniency. But if it's not the mitzvah, then we won't let you. We just have to stop at Shkia. Okay? That is on this topic. Next thing. Page 179. Next topic. It's the topic of melacha, of doing work before Havdala. So the Gemara Masech Shabbat tells us, what do we say? And you do what you need to do. First you can say and you can start to cut wood. What's a Ma'adim Kol Shechol? Says Rashi, Ma'adim Kol Shechol, it is a signal that tells us that Shabbat has passed. And we say Ma'adim Kol Shechol, but we still have to make Havdala on a cup. Okay, so Ma'adim Kol Shechol helps to do melacha, but you still have to make Havdala on a kos. Just take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. in source 41 on page 180. Asar la'asot shum malacha kodim sheyivdal. Can't make any malacha until you make Havdala. Ve'im hivdal b'tfilat mutar alfa pisha dayin lo hivdala koid. If you make Havdala in the davening at the Honantanu, then you can do malacha right after davening, even though you can still have to do Havdala on a kos. If you have to do malacha before you daven, it's already nightfall. 40 minutes later, just didn't pray yet. You can say Baruch Hamadim and Kodesh L'chol. And the Ramah says, and very important to teach the woman this. They're not praying Arvit. Even though in the laws of Shabbat over here, he says you shouldn't instruct the woman to pray Arvit Motzei Shabbat. Good luck. But Yesh Lamdan, you have to teach them before they do malacha. I think all our ladies know that. They say Baruch Hamadim and Kodesh L'chol, and they start doing malacha. I'll just tell you myself, I'm knowing myself on Motzei Shabbat that after Tefillah, after Shmona Esrei, even if I said at the Honantanu or I forgot at the Honantanu, I always say Baruch Hamadim Kodesh L'chol once more, just to set it in that because sometimes I daven and I forget to say it, so I make it mashita by myself to always say Baruch Hamadim Kodesh L'chol. This way, I know that I've said it because I go home and I put the car, or I do this, I do that. I know I've said it, because technically, if you missed it in the Tefillah, you don't go back. You go home, make it on the coast. But let's say I did something in the middle, right? Yeah, you have to say Baruch Hamadim Kodesh L'chol if you didn't say in the Tefillah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Baruch Hamadim Kodesh L'chol is needed even for malacha that is derabanan. If it's a malacha derabanan, you still have to say Baruch Hamadim Kodesh L'chol. You can't say it's derabanan, it's okay without it. No, you have to do it. But regarding eating, says the Mishnah Berurah, that doesn't work. Baruch Hamadim Kodesh L'chol doesn't help you in order to eat. In order to eat, you have to make it on a course. You have to make it on a cup. Okay? There is another idea. Is saying Shavua Tov or Gut Tevach considered Havdala? Why? Remember when it came to Shabbat, we said the man said Kiddush in Shul, in his davening, so the woman should also say Kiddush before the actual Kiddush. So we said maybe saying Shabbat Shalom is Kiddush. Remember we said that? So perhaps you want to say it to Havdala also. If you say Shavua Tov, that is Havdala. So the Tzitz Eliezer, he writes over here, it's really not Havdala, right? Because Havdala means to be mavdil. To say there's Kodesh and Chol. There's Sheshet Yemei Malacha and there's Yom HaShavi'i. There's Jews and Goyim. There's Havdalas that are made. There's actual mavdil, right? And saying Shavua Tov doesn't do that. However, they say you should still say Shavua Tov to a non-religious Jew, right? He's non-observant, right? And so let's say you're in Eretz Yisrael, and right after Shabbat you want to take a taxi. Your driver most likely is a Jew, maybe most probably not religious. So now you're going to have a Jew doing malacha for you who didn't do Havdalah yet, right? So perhaps there saying to him Shavua Tov would help somewhat, right? It doesn't help really. It's not really Havdalah, but it'll help somewhat when it comes to the non-observant Jew. That's in note 34 over there. Rabbi Waldenberg continues over there talking about that. Okay, now we come to our last topic in Havdalah for today. And this is the topic which we're going to see at the end of the day. There's a huge machloket between two of the sons of Chacham Ovadia. And what Chacham Ovadia held is what's considered the latest time you can do Havdalah. Okay, we're going to see Halacha Berurah and the Yalkut Yosef argue immensely on this topic. So let's get into it. The Gemara says, he didn't make Havdalah on Motzei Shabbat. Make Shabbat the whole week. You can make Havdalah. And how long? Up until Wednesday. It means you can make till Tuesday. On Tuesday, you can make Havdalah. That's what the Gemara says. Same thing in next. In Gittin, we say Chada b'Shabta, Trei v'Talta, Bata Shabta, Arba b'Chamisha, U'Ma'ala Yoima, Hamei Shabta. Rabbi Yaakov Be'idi, Avaloi Al Ha'or. Okay, so The Gemara says, usually when you write Gittin, we do the same thing. Sunday, we say it's connected to the previous Shabbat. Monday, it's connected to the previous Shabbat. Tuesday, connected to the previous Shabbat. Wednesday and on, it's connected to the new Shabbat. So therefore, Tuesday, it is off the cutoff line. And Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi says, yeah, even if you're making Havdalah after Saturday night, you're not doing it on the candle. The candle is only Saturday night. The same thing applies to some It's only Saturday night. After that, you're not going to make it. You just make a Bar Pri Agefin, Rabban Kosher Chol. Okay, so the Gemara is quite clear. The Gemara says you can make it till Tuesday, up until Tuesday, including not Wednesday. Because already considered the next Shabbat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's similar to why we say the Shnai Mikar Chatargim. If you're late, you can do it till Tuesday. If you're late, you can still do it after, but still Tuesday. There's the idea that it belongs to the previous Shabbat. Now, the Gemara in Pesachim, Amar Rava, Hilchata, Tam Mekadosh, Tam Avdil. Mishloi Kish Be'erev Shabbat, Mekadosh Halach Kol Yom Kulo. Ad Mot Shabbat. Mishloi Hiv the Mot Shabbat, Ma'ad B'Halach Kol Shabbat Kulo. If you didn't make Havdalah Mot Shabbat, you can make it the whole week.
But that's not the halacha.
The entire week. Meaning until Tuesday. Okay. Now, the Rif had an alternate version of the Gemara. And when he had the version in the Gemara Psachim, it did not say the whole week. It said the whole next day, just Sunday. That was the version of the Rif.
Yeah.
And he says, Shabbat, he makes it all of Sunday and not on the Ish. So according to the Riv, you have only up until Sunday to make Havdalah. You don't make Havdalah Sunday by Sunday night. That's it. No more Havdalah. So it's a huge difference. Huge difference. Till Tuesday or till Sunday. The Bahag. The Bahag writes, one who did not recite Havdalah at the conclusion of Shabbat may recite it the entire Sunday. But this is only if he did not taste anything, if he didn't eat. The Bahag says if he ate, then he can no longer say Havdalah.
Oh.
Because the only time you can eat and say Havdalah is Motzei Shabbat. Once it's the next day, if you ate, you can't say Havdalah. So the Bahag is even more strict. The Rif says you can say Havdalah till Sunday night. The Bahag says if you ate, then you can't make Havdalah on Sunday. It's only Motzei Shabbat you can make Havdalah if you ate. Once it's Sunday, you can't make Havdalah. The Shulchan Aruch, what does he say? Shachach v'lo hivdel. The Motzei Shabbat, source 50 on page 184. Shachach v'lo hivdel Motzei Shabbat. Mavdil ad sof yom shlishi. You can make Havdalah up until Tuesday night. Shulchan Aruch writes. Then he brings the other dayot. Only Sunday and no more. But dafki boy pregam am goes chol. Ner some in Mevarach Yom Motzei Shabbat. V'yesh misha omer the other kamilan ta'am mavdil hani mila hechid hevdel b'leil Motzei Shabbat. Ava im loy hevdel b'layla kivin shetam shuv einu mavdil. But if you ate Motzei Shabbat and you didn't make Havdalah, you cannot make Havdalah on Sunday. So the Shulchan Aruch brought all three opinions. He brought the Rashi, the way Rashi learning Gemara. He then brought the Rif, and he brought the Bahag. So based on this, read the Ben Ish Chai, the next source, the Ben Ish Chai. Ne'enas v'lo hivdil. Person who was honest didn't make Havdalah on Motzei Shabbat. Yesh lo zman lehavdil ad sof yom shlishi. He has up until Tuesday. But if he's making Havdalah until Tuesday, lo yivarach el bar pri hagefen al hayayin. He only makes a bracha bar pri hagefen. Ubrikata mavdil and bracha of mavdil. Mihu brikata mavdil yomar b'li sheu malchut. But when it comes to brikata mavdil, goes to he doesn't say Hashem's name. Because the Rif and the Bahag argue on this. Therefore, you cannot use Hashem's name if you're making Havdalah on Tuesday. Says the Ben Ish Chai. Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata. He writes, one did not recite Havdalah on Shabbat. He should recite Havdalah as soon as he remembers. Even if it's on purpose, even okay. Umadal asof yom shlishi ashket chama el mavarach lo abba similo aner el beleil motzei Shabbat bilvad. Right, because the besamim have to do with the extra neshama. Therefore, it has nothing to do with on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. Now, that's so far what we saw. We have the Shulchan Aruch said you could do. He brought 3 opinions. His first opinion you could do till Tuesday. Second opinion only Sunday. Third opinion only Sunday if you didn't eat yet. Okay. Ben Ish Chai says we have to be worried about this opinion. Therefore, if you're going to make it till Tuesday, you'd never say, you say Baruch Geffen because you're making it on the Geffen, but not, you don't say Shem Machut in Baruch HaMaftil. Now we're going to look in the Yalkut Yosef. Then we're going to look at the laws of Shabbat. Laws of Shabbat brings from Halacha Berurah. So 2 children of Chamuvadia, and what Chamuvadia held about Motzei Shabbat if you didn't make Havdala Motzei Shabbat. Here we go. We'll look at the Yalkut Yosef first. Rav Yitzchak Yosef, he writes, even if someone disregards the mitzvah of reciting Havdalah without any good reason, he didn't say Havdalah Motzei Shabbat, he may still recite it in full any time until sunset on Tuesday evening. He could do it. He can make it until Tuesday. Okay? Then he writes over here, someone failed to recite Havdalah on Saturday night, whether he forgot or prevented from fulfilling the mitzvah. Many posting rule that he may still recite Havdalah until sunset of Tuesday. But there are poskim who have a rule that it's possible only to make it till Sunday evening. And then after that, he may no longer recite the bracha in full. He can only recite it without Hashem's name, the Ben Ish Chai, right? Instead, he should hold the cup in his hand, recite the abridged version. In practice, he says, we follow the first opinion of the Shulchan Aruch that says you can make Havdalah until Tuesday evening. And this is the common custom. Okay, that's the Yalkut Yosef with the first day out of the Shulchan Aruch. Now, I'm going to bring you the laws of Shabbat, and he's now quoting from David Yosef, Rabbi David Yosef in the Halakha Berurah. And look what he says over here. Look what he says over here. He says, one who did not recite Havdalah Motzei Shabbat may recite Havdalah throughout Sunday until Shkia. All right, like the second opinion, only Sunday.
Rip.
Like the Rip.
That's the rip.
Second opinion is Shulchan Aruch. Who is he quoting this from? From Halakha Berurah. Okay, and however, this is only on condition. This is only on condition that he didn't eat or drink. Now he's holding like the Bahag. Okay, he didn't even drink. Even after Sunday, it is proper to take a cup of wine and say Baruch HaMelech and not saying Hashem's name and recite the bracha Bar Priya Gef. So he says it. It's Sunday, and it's only Sunday if you didn't eat yet.
What is he not saying it? How you can say bracha without Hashem name?
Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. You don't say.
Oh, Hashem?
You don't say Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. You don't say that part. You just say everything else in the words.
Okay.
What be I given?
No, Bar Priya Gef you say because you're actually going to drink wine.
I'm of this.
Ma'adam kol shechol. You skip Hashem's name in there.
Blank. Elokeinu,
If you ate, you don't do it on Sunday. That's what you bring. Further, a person is permitted. A person is only permitted to recite Havdalah on Sunday. Listen, even more. He writes. A person is only permitted to say Havdalah on Sunday if he was honest on Motzei Shabbat and didn't say it. But if he did it because he just didn't do it, he just decided not to do it.
No, but if you
Then
forgot,
he cannot.
if you forgot, it was
So you have a machloket here, Halakha Berurah, with the Yalkut Yosef, of how to learn this. So they want to say here, I saw somewhere they said that Chacham Ovadia originally held like this Halakha Berurah, right? And then Yitzchak Yosef says Chacham Ovadia then retracted and said no, the Halakha is like the first opinion in the Shulchan Aruch. But the Halakha Berurah, David Yosef says no, my father wasn't retracted. And it's based on Yabia Omer, Chazon Ovadia, Chazon stuff. And based on that, they're saying he retracted or he didn't retract. Did he actually go back to the first day on the Shulchan Aruch or not? So we have David Yosef and Yitzchak Yosef in 2 different opinions. Can you make Havdalah even if you missed it on purpose and up until Tuesday and say Hashem's name in the bracha of Ma'adam kol shechol or not? So Halakha L'maaseh, what do we actually do? What? So we know like the Yalkut Yosef, like the first day on the Shulchan Aruch, like Rashi. Most of us make Havdalah. If we didn't do it, we do it up to Tuesday, and we do it with the bracha, the Shem u'Malchut, fully. Or that more because that's only subject to Motzei Shabbat.
I was gonna make it Tuesday
So we're saying even if he ate, even if we ate, we don't. Yalkut Yosef is going with the first day out of Shulchan Aruch, not like the Rif and not the Bahag. Therefore, for us, most of us, at least I can say the majority of us, who usually follow the Piskei of the Yalkut Yosef, we have what to rely on if necessary to make Havdalah up until Tuesday. Okay? Up until Tuesday. Now, interestingly to note, what about Tisha B'Av? Right? If Tisha B'Av is Motzei Shabbat, when you make Havdalah after, right? On Sunday night. Right. But you're making it after Shkia. Right?
No.
So that's proof. That's proof that we're not like the Rif and not like the Bahag, because it's not Sunday anymore. It's already Monday. Right? So seems to be that, because otherwise you would say you can't do it. Right? Because they say up until Sunday. If it's next day already. It's Sunday night already. It's already Monday. So okay, but they're saying the only time you have based on the Gemara is based on Sunday. That's it. Once it's past Sunday, even if it's not honest, you can't do it, according to the Rif and the Bahag. Okay, so looks like the first day of the Shulchan Aruch is the I hear you, but you still need coast now. We say we have to do both. We do both. Okay, so the last piece over here in the Davar Machshava, and when with this, he says that the minhag of Klal Yisrael is to sing many songs about Eliyahu Hanavi at Motzei Shabbat. Okay, so just to know, there is a song before Havdalah there's a couple of songs before Eliyahu, but there's one very important one. We say Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Tishbi, Eliyahu Giladi. Sephardic nusach is not to say Tishbi Giladi. What we say Eliyahu Hanavi 3 times. Eliyahu Hanavi, David. And then there's a lot of stanzas in that. It's a very important song that a person should read before Havdalah. Also, the minhag to say Eliyahu Navi Zachor Latov 130 times after the Havdalah, and people have minhag to count coins, to count it on their fingers. And after doing Eliyahu Navi Zachor Latov 130 times, they then read Patach Eliyahu. Okay, and then you read Patach Eliyahu.
Yeah,
okay.
I do it.
So there are very important stuff. If you come to my house, to Chaim's house, my Havdalah takes about a half hour. All right, it takes about a half hour of Havdalah from the beginning. Yeah. It's literally a half hour.
Your family sits for 30 minutes?
But they're Klal, yes, everyone sits.
Or you call them the last 5 minutes?
What? No, they're Klal. Everyone sits except my wife. My wife's there with the dishwasher and everything else, and I'm saying all the tefillot, and then she comes to the main parts. But it's very important. Also, just to remind everybody, v'yiten lecha is should be said right after Havdalah, according to Sfaradim, and it's important to say it with 2 people. If possible, to say it with 2 people, it's very important. It brings a lot of beracha. A lot of beracha. V'amartem kol echai, v'ata shalom, v'tcha shalom, v'chol shalom, to say it 7 times. No, this is all Sephardic minhagim. Now, just to end off, why do we talk so much about Eliyahu Hanavi and Motzei Shabbat? So,
because Eliyahu cannot come to
Shabbat. Very good. Since Eliyahu Hanavi can't come to Shabbat, so as soon as Shabbat's over, we're ready to say Eliyahu Hanavi come. Or another opinion we say is the Abu Draham says, he says, because we know that if the Jews keep Shabbat properly for 2 Shabbats, Mashiach will come. So you tell Eliyahu Hanavi, we just kept Shabbat. Let's get going. We got to get Mashiach in. So we said Eliyahu Hanavi on Motzei Shabbat right away to bring in the Geula. Okay. Hazak Baruch Mekulam. Shavua Tov. So next week we'll continue.
The wrong way not to have to right away, just relax. You just came out of Shabbat. Like I always have a hard time running right into it. I'm just, the videos, very.
That's the best.
Depends. What are you doing? Depends. What are you doing during that time? I think it depends on what you're doing during that time. If you're sitting on your phone or something like that, then it will be more appropriate to do Havdalah first, right? Because you're doing malacha, so technically you should do real Havdalah before you do those things. If you are learning or singing or saying other things, then yeah, take your time. But if you're going to already do malacha and already active as Shabbat, then you should do Havdalah. It works. It works for malacha, but not for eating. But the proper Havdalah, it does work for malacha. But even so, we would say if you're going to do malacha, it's better to do the actual Havdalah on the coast and not just rely on. In fact, those who say Baruch Hamav Kosh Shechol, a lot of times would not do Doraita Milacha. They would wait until they do on the coast. There is opinions like that. Okay, Shavuot Tov.